Most people watching season 24 of American Idol saw Keyla Richardson for the very first time when she walked through that audition door. They watched her open her mouth and reduce a panel of music veterans to silence. They watched Luke Bryan start crying before she even hit the second verse. And when it was over, when her 9-year-old son walked in and spontaneously sang for the judges, and the clip spread across every social media platform within hours, most of those viewers thought the same thing. Where did she come from? The answer is not simple. And it is absolutely not the story that was told on television, because by the time Keyla Richardson stood in front of Lionel Richie, Carrie Underwood, and Luke Bryan, she had already been on national television. She had already scored a #1 hit on Billboard. She had already signed a record deal, released an 8-track studio album, appeared as the lead actress in a film alongside one of Hollywood's biggest names, gone viral on the internet twice, and then, just as quietly as everything had built up, stepped back from all of it. Not because she quit, because she had a son to raise and a life to rebuild, and she decided she would disappear, improve, and return when she was ready. That is the story nobody saw coming. That is the story that explains everything. It starts in Pensacola, Florida, where Keyla Richardson was born on September 16, 1996. Her upbringing wasn't just religious in the casual Sunday morning sense. Her parents were pastors. Her father served at Abundance of Life Temple of Praise, a church that wasn't just the family's spiritual home, it was the family's entire world. Keyla was inside that building constantly from the time she could walk. She started singing at the age of 5, not performing in a school talent show, not humming along to the radio, singing in church in front of a congregation, in a setting where music carried real weight and real meaning. That environment does something to a vocalist that no amount of training can fully replicate. When you learn to sing in a gospel church, you are not learning to perform. You are learning to mean what you sing. Every note has to carry something. Every phrase has to connect. The congregation isn't a passive audience. They respond. They push back. They either feel it or they don't. And if they don't, you know immediately. That is the school Keyla Richardson graduated from before she ever stepped inside a classroom that taught music formally. By her early teens, she wasn't just a member of the youth choir. She was leading worship services, directing how the music moved, making decisions about when to build and when to pull back. That is a level of responsibility that most professional musicians never carry. She was carrying it before she was old enough to drive. She started pursuing music seriously at 16. And for the next several years, she was a well-known figure in the gospel world of Northwest Florida, performing locally, building a reputation, developing the kind of controlled vocal power that would eventually make Luke Bryan lose composure on national television. But her first real breakout moment came not from a stage and not from a competition. It came from a phone camera. In 2015, a video of Keyla and a group of friends singing "Hold On" by the Walls Group started circulating online. It was not a produced clip. It was not a staged performance for YouTube. It was exactly the kind of raw, unfiltered moment that the internet picks up and refuses to put down when the talent is genuine. That video spread. It reached people who had never heard of Keyla Richardson, never heard of Pensacola, and had no particular reason to care about a young gospel singer from the Florida Panhandle. They cared because they couldn't help it. The attention that clip generated was real enough to open doors. By 2018, she had been signed to Blackberry Records, the label run by gospel legend Doug Williams, and she released a single called "Believe," a record deal. Before American Idol, before any of the things most viewers now associate with her name. She had already made the transition from local church singer to signed recording artist, and she had done it on the strength of a viral video and a voice that didn't need any help from production. And then came the moment that, by any logic, should have made her famous. In 2019, Keyla Richardson appeared on Season 9 of Sunday Best on BET. For anyone unfamiliar with the show, Sunday Best is one of the most respected gospel talent competitions in the United States. It is not a minor league stepping stone. It is a legitimate national platform that has launched real careers. The show has been running since 2007, and its alumni include some of the most recognized names in contemporary gospel music. Getting on it is an achievement. Getting to the Final Four is a different thing entirely. Keyla got to the Final Four. She did not win, but she held her own against serious competition on a national stage, and she walked away from that season with something more valuable than a trophy. She walked away with an audience that already knew who she was. That same season also featured a singer named Jamal Roberts, who at the time didn't win either. He came back for American Idol Season 23. He won that. The connection between Sunday Best and American Idol is not coincidental. The show has become something of a proving ground for the kind of vocal talent that mainstream competition shows eventually come looking for. And for Keyla, the Sunday Best experience gave her exactly what she described it giving her: preparation. It definitely prepared me for the platform, she told a local news outlet after her Idol audition. Definitely groomed me to be an artist. What happened immediately after Sunday Best is where things get genuinely extraordinary. In 2020, Keyla released a song called So Good. It hit #1 on Billboard's Gospel Airplay chart. #1, not a local chart, not a regional ranking. Billboard, the same publication that tracks what is happening across the entire music industry worldwide. She was at the top of her genre. The song became the title track of an 8-song studio album. She had a record deal, a national television appearance, and a Billboard #1, all before she turned 25. Think about what that means in terms of what was already on her resume before a single frame of American Idol Season 24 had ever aired. But the music industry is not a place that holds your spot for you while life happens. And life was happening. Keyla had become a mother at 20 years old. Her son Drew was born on October 6, 2016. She was raising him alone. The father has never been publicly identified, and Keyla has never addressed it beyond acknowledging that she is a single mother. Raising a child as a single parent while attempting to maintain a music career in a genre that is not exactly known for making its artists wealthy is not a background story. It is the story. It is the reason the quiet years between 2021 and 2025 exist. It is the reason that, after a Billboard #1 and a BET national television appearance, most of the country had still never heard her name. She made a choice that a lot of people in that position make, and a lot of people in that position don't talk about, honestly. She pulled back. She went home. She took a job teaching music at Life Shifting Learning Academy, a private Christian school in Pensacola. What the show didn't mention is that this school was founded by her own mother, Keyla Richardson. She was not just teaching at a random institution. She was building something inside a space her family created. She was pouring into students what had been poured into her, in the same city, in the same community, under the same faith framework that had shaped everything she ever became. She was also watching Drew grow up, taking him to school, being there in the ways that a career on the road or in a recording studio would have made impossible. And somewhere in that stretch of quiet, she kept working. There is a post on her Instagram that has taken on a whole new significance since the audition aired. At the end of a series of photos of herself and Drew, she wrote 4 words: disappear, improve, return, shock. She posted that before any of this happened, before the audition, before the viral clip of Drew singing for the judges, before Lionel Richie stood in Hawaii and said what he said, before the city of Pensacola named a celebration after her and put her face on a mural. She wrote those 4 words like she had already mapped out the next chapter and was just waiting for the timing to align. The quiet years were not stagnation. There were signs that she was preparing for something. In 2022, she landed the lead role in a BT Plus film called Due Season. She played Vicki Waters, a young singer fighting to stay enrolled at her dream conservatory by winning a music competition, using gospel music as her secret weapon. The film starred Vivica A. Fox, B.B. Winans, and a full cast of established names. She spoke about managing her nerves working with people of that caliber, about what it meant to step into an acting role for the first time. She did not disappear from the entertainment world entirely. She was moving carefully, building in different directions, staying ready. In 2024, she released a single called Home. A few months later, another called Joy in the Morning. Neither made the mainstream charts the way So Good had, but they were signals. She was warming up. She was approaching something she had clearly been thinking about for a long time. She told people close to her that auditioning for American Idol was a long-awaited dream. It wasn't a spontaneous decision. It wasn't desperation or a career Hail Mary. It was a deliberate move by someone who had spent the better part of a decade getting ready for exactly this kind of platform. On January 26, 2026, Keyla Richardson walked into the American Idol Season 24 audition room and chose to sing Glitter in the Air by P&K. The song choice was not accidental. Glitter in the Air is not a vocal showcase in the traditional sense. It doesn't give a singer a series of big moments to climb. It asks for something harder, sustained emotional truth across a quiet, restrained performance. It asks the singer to pull the listener in rather than push them. It demands vulnerability rather than power. Keyla executed it in a way that had Luke Bryan in tears before she reached the second verse. All three judges voted yes without discussion. And then Drew walked in. He was 9 years old. He had not been coached. Nobody told him to sing. He walked over to meet the judges, and when Lionel Richie asked him if he could sing, he just did it. He sang God Only Knows. Completely composed, completely unscripted, in front of three of the most experienced judges in the history of music competition television. Carrie Underwood was visibly moved. The clip was shared tens of thousands of times within hours of airing. People who had missed the broadcast found it through social media and watched it without knowing who Keyla was. And by the end of the clip, they knew exactly who she was. The season that followed was not a gradual build. It was a sustained statement. During Hollywood Week, she performed I Won't Give Up by Jason Mraz. Carrie Underwood gave Drew her seat at the judges' table so he could watch his mother perform directly to him. That image, a 9-year-old boy sitting in a judge's chair watching his mom sing to him from the stage, was another moment that moved far beyond the show's existing audience and reached people who don't typically watch American Idol. In Hawaii, during what the show called Ohana Week, Keyla performed With a Little Help from My Friends. Lionel Richie stood up afterward and said it was the greatest performance he had ever seen on that stage in the history of the show. Keke Palmer, who appeared as a guest, compared her directly to Fantasia Barrino, the Season 3 American Idol winner, who went on to become one of the most celebrated voices in contemporary music. Those are not polite compliments. Those are specific, considered statements from people who have seen a great deal of talent across decades in this industry. The live shows continued in the same direction. Week after week, Keyla received enough votes from the public to advance. She sang Stevie Wonder. She sang Etta James. She sang Taylor Swift, and the Cranberries, and the Lion King. Each performance demonstrated something different about what she was capable of. The range was not just vocal, it was interpretive. She could take a song that had nothing to do with her life on the surface and make it feel like she had written it that morning. The city of Pensacola did something during this season that most cities only do for athletes who win championships. They mobilized. Watch parties filled local restaurants every week. A mural went up on Pensacola's graffiti bridge. Host Ryan Seacrest started calling her Pensakeela on air. The city's fan base even gave themselves a name, the Key Hive. The mayor was publicly invested in her run from the beginning, speaking about her at events and showing up in the footage. On May 4, 2026, Keyla performed River Deep, Mountain High by Ike and Tina Turner to open the Top 5 episode. In the second half of the same show, she duetted with former American Idol winner Taylor Hicks on Stevie Wonder's Living for the City. She advanced to the top 3. She will compete in the grand finale on May 11th on ABC alongside Hannah Harper and Jordan McCullough. And today, the same day this video was produced, Pensacola is holding Keyla Fest, a parade along South Palafox Street, a free concert at the Hunter Amphitheater behind Blue Wahoo's stadium. Thousands of people expected downtown. A 4-minute segment from the event will air during the finale. The city gave her a key to it. Here is what you are actually looking at when you watch Keyla Richardson on that stage. You are watching someone who started singing in church at 5 years old and never really stopped, who went viral before going viral, was part of a strategy, who signed a record deal years before American Idol ever entered her mind, who appeared on a national gospel competition, finished in the Final Four, and didn't win, who released a Billboard #1 and then stepped back, not because she failed, but because she was a mother first, and she knew exactly what that required, who taught music in her mother's school, raised her son, appeared in a film, released music quietly, and waited, who wrote Disappear, Improve, Return, Shock, before any of it had happened. Every part of that sentence has now happened. She disappeared, she improved, she returned, and she is, without any argument, shocking people, judges, audiences, an entire city, and apparently the entire country, every single week. The story most viewers missed is not a footnote. It is the foundation. Everything she does on that stage has a reason behind it. Every time she handles pressure with composure, every time she finds the emotional center of a song she didn't write about her own life, every time she makes a panel of music industry, veterans stop and stare. That comes from somewhere. It comes from 20 years of showing up, building something real, losing things, rebuilding, and refusing to define herself by any single outcome. She already had a career before that audition room. She already had a #1 record. She already had a film credit. She already had a son who looks at her like she hung every star in the sky. And she walked into that audition room not as someone with nothing to lose, but as someone who had already proven what she needed to prove, and was simply ready for the world to catch up. The finale is May 11th. Whatever the result turns out to be, Keyla Richardson's story was never going to be defined by a competition result. It was going to be defined by the 20 years that came before the competition, and by what she does with whatever comes after it.